It's told as a story that actually changes or morphs in structure from a narrative into a philosophical poetic dictation, which is actually an ancient Middle Eastern art form. So the Book of Job is actually a beautiful piece of art that deals with a very tragic substance. It's actually better than Shakespeare when you look at it, because it is dealing with a tragedy. It is dealing with someone wrestling with terrible things, being confronted by other people who think they know what they're talking about, and they go back and forth. They have an exchange. It's very similar to a drama that is expressed in this ancient Middle Eastern lyrical format. So we start out with the narrative, and what I'm going to focus on tonight is that narrative, because I want to bring something out that maybe we don't ever really look at, or we don't ever really understand. And I think it's key to understanding the entire Job narrative and tragedy put together. And I think that'll be important for us as we move forward. So let's start with a word of prayer, and then we're going to dive into the Word of God. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this evening. I thank you for this chance that we have to go into your Word. I thank you for your Word. I thank you for the truth that is in it. I thank you that it can guide us and not leave us lost in the darkness. I pray that you would bless us here tonight, help us to find that light, help us to move closer to you. We thank and we love you in Jesus' name. Amen. So, in the book of Job, we start with the man, Job. There was a man in the land of Uz, U.S. He was American, no. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright and one that feared God and eschewed evil. And we go through a whole description of how well Job is doing. And I'm glad Job is doing so well. He is super rich. Actually, according to what we understand about Job, he was a king of his city. Super wealthy guy. He had all the sheep, he had all the donkeys, he had all the cows, beef for days. Okay, he had all the kids. Matter of fact, he had 7 sons, one for each day of the week. Okay, and then 3 daughters, and they had so much money they would all go and feast in a different kid's house every day of the week. That's 7 houses. I got 1 house I'm still trying to pay off. Job's kids have 7 of them. All right, he has 3 daughters that are very beautiful. I've got 4, so I will say I'm winning. Okay, all right. He has all the sheep, all the cows. We're going to talk about the sheep, guys. Okay, don't worry, it's coming. Okay, there will be some entertainment aspect because we have kids in here. Okay, so if you feel like I'm talking down to you, I'm not talking down to you, I'm talking down to them. All right, so Job is doing very well. He's very wealthy. He's what we would call today privileged. It's the Bible. I'm kidding. Job is doing very well. The Lord has blessed him exceedingly. He is doing great. And when someone is doing great, don't begrudge that. Don't assume that they're a terrible person just because they have money. Maybe the Lord just blessed them, as he did with Job. Now, when it talks about Job, it does not mention his wealth first. And when you read a narrative, you have to look and see what is mentioned first, because that is what you are supposed to know about them. That is what is supposed to stick in your mind when you think about this character. This is a writing technique. Okay, we do it in books. The first thing you mention about a character is the one that sticks. When you meet a person, first impressions matter, do they not? Okay? People like to say all the time, don't judge a book by its cover. Being in the book business, you absolutely judge books by their cover. Okay? If I've got someone coming at me whose pants are down to here, slouched in a hoodie with several bulges around over here, I don't have a good first impression. Okay? Yeah, if they got face tattoos and they got all kinds of metal jammed into weird places on their faces, I have a bias forming. It's called an impression. It's called an impression for a reason, because you are being pressed upon, and it's leaving it like an indentation in your mind. Okay, so how you present yourself matters. First impressions matter. Now here, what is our first impression of Job? First of all, he's a man. Yeah. All right. Also, he's from Uz. Okay, that gives us a region. That should give us a cultural context. Okay? His name was Job. Great. Now I know which one we're talking about. And he was perfect and upright. Now, perfect does not mean sinless here. Perfect means mature. He was an intelligent, mature individual. He didn't act out. He wasn't like a lot of the wealthy that we have who believe that they have been given power, and because they have that power, they can choose to do with it what they want without fear of consequence. Which is why we always see actors lose their minds and fall into like a pit of drugs or something like that. Like, what's the latest guy? Ezra Miller? The guy who plays the Flash. DC, the guy's insane. He's insane. He has done the craziest thing. He's been in jail for assault like 3 times in 3 weeks. Okay? You just lose your mind when suddenly the probability of consequence has been removed. But Job doesn't have that problem. It says that he is perfect and upright, one that feared God and eschewed evil. If you fear God, you eschew evil. Because if you're scared of God, you don't do bad things. Okay? You don't tick off the dad. Right? There's things you don't do around dad. Does that make sense? Don't do this thing around dad. Okay? Don't touch my remote. Okay? I'm watching that. Don't touch it. Okay? Don't touch the thermostat. Don't touch it. Okay? Why can't I find my keys? Leave my stuff alone. Okay? Don't steal my stuff. Tally. Okay? All right? Leave my stuff alone. All right? When you fear the Lord, there are things you do not do. And this is Job's character. He eschews evil because he loves the Lord. And then we learn about Job's substance. We learn about everything that he has been blessed with. But what we learned about his character was the most important thing. This translates into Job's trial. Now, does everybody know the story of Job? Do I need to summarize real quick? Everybody pretty much up to date on it? Okay. So, basically, Job has a bad day. All right? Up in heaven, it says there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them. Now, when it says the sons of God is an ancient Middle Eastern term for referring to like celebrities or kings. It just meant important people. So when you read in Genesis and it says the sons of God saw the daughters of men and took wives of them all that they chose, they're just referring to kings establishing dynasties. And they were having tons of sons because using polygamy to establish dynasties and establish powerful families so that they could rule the earth more effectively. They were basically starting wars. Okay? That's what that term refers to, sons of God. Now, here it says in heaven, the sons of God came to present themselves, and the devil came among them. And God sees him. Now, I love the way God talks to him. Because first of all, he just talks to him. He doesn't say, "What are you doing here? Weren't you the guy that started that rebellion a while ago? I kind of remember you." Okay, he doesn't say that. He asks him a question. And the way he phrases the question is fascinating. He says, "Hast thou considered my servant Job?" My servant Job. He didn't say Job. And the way the Lord refers to you matters. Because that's how the Lord knows you. And if that's the way the Lord knows you, that's how heaven knows you. So Job is known as God's servant Job. Do you think Satan knows this? I've noticed when God asks questions, it's not to get information. Have you noticed, like, that whole knowing everything thing? So when God's asking a question, it's not to figure something out. God's not like, I wonder, have you? I just spitballing here. Have you ever thought about Job? All right? And he points him out, okay? In the military, this is bad juju. Okay? Don't do this, okay? Don't point me out. I'm trying to skate through. I'm not looking for a bad time. And when somebody in charge says, "Hey, look at this devil over here. Look at this killer." Yeah! Look at it. Everybody give him one. Yeah. And in the Air Force, they would clap, I guess. And the Marines would just say, "Kill." Okay? And now everyone's looking at me. And you can just feel the wolves circling. All right? And this is what happens. God points Job out to a lion, to the destroyer, to, you know what the word Satan means? adversary. This is the enemy. We have the concept of enemy, and this is it. And God says, hey, enemy, the ideal of enemy, look at this guy. Now, this is cool to think about when you're not in it. All right? Because Job's life is about to suck. And there's no other way to describe it. It's just awful. And when you're in it, you don't understand it. Suddenly, you're not all gung-ho about the Christian life. You're just trying to breathe. You're just trying to get out of bed. Because I'm trying to figure out different ways to say this. Hit after hit after hit just keeps coming. What happens to Job? He has, 4 guys? Run up to him in a row and tell him his entire life has been destroyed. Okay? All your camels are gone. They got stolen. Lightning hit your sheep. What? Okay, all of them? Was it one big bolt of lightning, or was it a whole bunch of little bolts of lightning? Because both of them is way too much hate. Okay? Both of these are a problem. Why does this exist? I got Bob the sheep over here. Okay, Jerry the sheep is trying to run. He gets taken out. All right, the sheep are having a bad day. What did the sheep do? Nothing. They just happen to be Job's sheep. Bad day to be Job's sheep. Okay? Now that's not the worst part for Job. All of his substance being taken away, whatever. It doesn't seem like he cares too much. His children are killed by a storm. A storm that hit the 4 corners of the house. That's a really precise storm. That's targeted. That's something supernatural is coming after me. Took out the 4 corners of the house they were in. There were 7 houses. And this storm knew which one to hit. That's targeted. That's a different feeling than random storm hit. Because Job's not stupid. It says he's perfect and upright. He's intelligent. You can tell that from the rest of the book. He understands causality. So when a storm like that kills your children, you know where it came from. Job's having a bad day. And Job is having a bad day from, it seems like, God. Because nowhere in the book of Job does God ever tell Job the devil is doing this to you. All Job knows is that the hedge of protection that has been around him for his entire life and that has blessed him is gone and fallen on him. Everything has been completely reversed. Has anyone ever been there? That's a different feeling. You don't like that feeling. Okay? But let's put Job aside. Why did this happen to him? Was it to prove something to Job? Was it to make Job a better person? There is no indication it had anything to do with Job. It wasn't like Job was in sin and he got corrected. So it wasn't punishment. It wasn't like Job had some great mission to accomplish after this that he was being prepared for, like, say, Joseph. When Joseph lost everything, was sold into slavery, it was to prepare him to be the ruler of Egypt. There is no indication in the book of Job that Job did anything else after this. So this incident does not seem to be for Job's benefit, which kind of makes it worse. Because it's like, oh, I'm in a trial. At least it's good for me. Nope. It just hurts the whole time. Okay, so why? Has this been allowed to happen to God's servant Job? Isn't God supposed to take care of his servants? Aren't there workplace protocols? Take care of your employees. Here's your benefits plan. I'm not allowed to just slap you around, You can report to these over here. If there's a fire, go gather in this section of the building. Right? Why is God allowing this to happen to his employee, to his servant, to a man who has dedicated his entire life to him? Why is God allowing this to happen? And this is the question everyone asks when they're in this. Why are you letting this happen? Okay? When you trust God and you've given your life over to God, and God is your everything, and then terrible things happen to you. Terrible things happen to you. The question is, I thought you were in charge. What am I supposed to get out of this? Okay? Now, usually that question comes about because you lack information. You don't know what's going on. Job has no indication that God is having a contest with Satan. Right? Now, the idea of being in a contest with Satan also makes me angry. I don't like being a pawn. I'm against that idea. Okay? I didn't sign up to serve God to be a pawn. Okay? Hit this pawn with lightning several times. Okay? My brother is the absolute worst person to play a video game with in the world. Okay? I would hate to be one of my brother's pawns. He has done terrible things to things that were supposed to trust him. You'll take care of me, right? Yeah, go over here. Okay? I would never want to be my brother's pawn. I don't want to be anyone's pawn. And a lot of people pray, I want to be used of God, and then they complain that they feel used. This is something we have to address, because if you are going to be a servant of God, you are going to be used. What did God say? I know, Paul wrote a letter, and he said, trust in the Lord, and only good things will happen. Is that what he said? Ever? Okay. Believe in the fluff of the Lord. Okay? No. It never one time happens. Like, there are certain songs that make me angry. Okay? Like, Walking Down the Heavenly Road. Makes me mad. Okay? Ain't nobody walked down the heavenly road yet. If you're here, you've not been on the heavenly road. Okay? Walking down the heavenly road, lay down my heavy load. Jesus said he'd walk along with me. When Jesus said he'd walk along with you, okay, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were in a fire. Okay? There wasn't no heavenly road. There was a bunch of the biggest guys in the army tying them up and throwing them into a furnace so hot it killed them. Okay? That was when Jesus walked along with them. Okay? He was there in the fire. When Barak and Deborah were going to go to war, you know where God was? He met them at the battle. Okay? So there's certain songs just make me angry. They're a misrepresentation of the Christian life, and they set inappropriate expectations. Okay? This is going to be easy. I can't wait till that hits you in the face. Okay? It's like the smile every Marine gets hearing someone is going to go to boot camp. It's like, it's going to be great. It's a vacation spot. They're going to give you a lemonade as soon as you get out the bus. It's going to be amazing. Right? But we don't have that expectation, because what does Paul tell us to do? Hey, maybe you ought to endure hardness as a good soldier, because it's about to get bad. Hey, maybe rethink the idea of getting married, because a whole bunch of you are about to get fed to lions. So maybe rethink that basic thing, because the danger level is so high just to follow God that maybe, I'm not saying you're wrong, maybe just think about it. Okay? That's what Paul said. There was no walking down the heavenly road. There was, this is going to be bad for a while. We need to prepare for this. We need to think about this. Okay? So, life is going to be hard for Christians. Awesome. Woo! Real uplifting. Okay? But what happens in this story? And this is the part that is so inspirational for me, because I actually do love this story. I don't want to be Job, but I want to have the effect Job had. Because what happens? There are two contests that take place, okay, between God and Satan. The first time, Satan replies to the Lord. Of course he's going to serve you. You've protected him and you've given him all this stuff. Materialism. You have given him worldly success. Of course he's going to be on your side. Because what is being fought over here? What is being stated? First of all, if God points out Job, does God believe Job is going to break? Probably not. Okay, so there's a question. Would God point you out? Okay. God points out Job to the destroyer because he knows Job will not break. But what is the benefit here? And this is where I want to target. We're talking about Satan, the enemy. Why did Satan fall? Better question. Why did Satan rebel? Why did he turn away? Pride. Okay? Now, if you study the lies that have gone down through history, what's one of the major lies? I'll tell you, it's the one that counters Genesis 1. Okay? What is that major lie? Evolution, right? Evolution did not start with Darwin. Evolution comes about from materialism, which is one of the core tenets of idolatry, right? What is Ra the god of? The sun. The idea of that god came from the sun, which already existed. Okay? Then you have Isis, goddess of the Nile. You have all these different deities, but they came from stuff. They are the gods and goddesses and the owners of stuff. It all comes from something pre-existing. Okay? Now, we look at Satan, and he's rebelling against God, right? Now, does Satan have all the information? Like, he's seen God, right? Full-on glory, right? Is there any question why it says in Romans, if you knew all the information, you can't then be saved if you turn away? I used to wonder that as a kid. Why can't the devil get saved? Like, I actually prayed a couple times. God, please let the devil realize that he's wrong and turn away from his sin. Okay? It's not possible. You know why? He already has all the information he needs to make a decision. He has seen everything. He has seen the full-on glory of God. There's nothing new for him to learn. He has made his decision, and he cannot then turn away from that decision. Now, let's look at this from his point of view. You're born. Okay? Now, when we're born, we're not aware, right? You don't remember any of that? Supernatural being, essence of spirit. Okay? He is born in his full glory and his full power. Wakes up, and God says, I made you, I own you. You have a decision, right? Believe that or not? Now, if you come up with the idea that God did not make you and you just happened, then you could be like God. You could be like the Most High. And this is the lie he's been peddling for thousands of years to humanity. You could be like God. Eat the fruit. You'll know good and evil. You can be like God. He drew a third of the angels after him with this lie, because I think he believes it. Okay? So now we have the devil's justification for rebelling against God, right? He thinks God's lying. All right? And that's like the essence of Gnosticism, right? That God is actually flawed and the devil is countering him. If you study Gnosticism at all, it's really fascinating. It actually infects most entertainment that we consume. So, Devil and God are in a contest now. Devil thinks God is flawed. So he's trying to prove God wrong. He's like, remove your protection from him and I'll break him. I'll show you everyone is just like me. Let him think he's being lied to. Let him think he's been turned on, and he will break. Okay? Does Job break? No. What is the one phrase that Job says to counter the materialistic argument? Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. And in all this he did not sin with his lips, nor curse God. That phrase is so important. He didn't sin with his lips or curse God. He did not turn on God. He didn't break. His faith remained strong. Well, what happened the second time? Devil shows up in heaven. God says the exact same words. That's passive aggressive. Okay? Hast thou considered my servant Job? Okay? It sounds like that, you know? And Satan's like, touch him. Take his health. Take his strength. Take who he is. What you took from me. Take that. And he will curse you to your face, just like I did. Does Job do that? No. What does he say? Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. I mean, and everyone likes to hate on Job's wife. Okay? Dude, you'd have broke too. Okay? Like, let's not get unrealistic here, okay? Exactly. Anybody would have broke. Okay? And as a matter of fact, there's no indication anything like this ever happened to anyone else other than Job. So, the justification for Satan's whole rebellion has been destroyed because Job, what does Satan think of humanity? What do you think he thinks of humanity? Think of what Satan is. Angel of light, probably archangel. Okay? Beautiful, able to seduce a third of the angels in heaven. Extremely powerful, so much so that even Michael won't tangle with him until his chain's done, you know, until it's time for that. Okay? That is what Lucifer is. What are we to that? I'm a United States Marine. So? You're going to get killed. What do you think Lucifer thinks of us? And Job didn't break. Where Lucifer broke, Job did not break. And that is the point that was made. Job's faith was so strong that he beat the devil. What does it tell us in the New Testament? Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. You can beat the devil. Now, it's going to suck. We see how bad it can get here in the book of Job. It's about as bad as it can get, I think. But when you resist the devil and you do not break, you do not give up your faith, because, things got hard. Right? I saw stuff like this happen in college. You guys can probably attest to this. Okay? I saw a guy sitting on a terrace at PCC. Okay? You know, this is hysterical. I was having a terrible day. I was having a really bad day. I didn't have any money. Like, my family were having health problems 4,000 miles away. Like, this isn't a bad day. This is a bad day. Okay? And this guy is looking like he's having the same kind of day I am. So obviously I reach out to him. I'm like, hey man, is everything okay? And he's like, it's been 5 minutes and she hasn't texted back. And I'm like, we're not the same. I almost slapped him. Maybe you can cry for a reason. But you ever met somebody, like you're going through such a hard time, and then you meet somebody who's like, man, we're the same. We're going through the same thing. Mom put pepper on the fish. It was the worst. Pray for me. Okay, I stubbed my toe. That's kind of like your cancer, right? Okay, it's like Marines listening to airmen talk. We're just like, really? This, okay, that sounds bad. All right, you listen to this kind of stuff, and you read the book of Job, and this is limit testing. This is as bad as it gets. How does it get worse? He lost everything. He had to sit in ashes because he was scraping his skin off. His skin was attacking him. Like, it does not get worse. Resist the devil. That's a command. And then there's a result. And he will flee from you. No matter how bad it gets, resist. I feel weak. Well, it's a good thing you can pray, huh? I can probably pray for strength, and I'll probably get strength, because that's what it says in the Bible, probably, right? I don't know what to do. Well, it's a good thing God gives wisdom liberally. Upbraideth not. He doesn't say, why are you stupid? And then give you wisdom. He doesn't do that. Everything we need to resist is given to us from the Lord. And the result is that the devil flees. Now, after chapter 2, when is the next time Satan is mentioned? It's a long time. He doesn't show up in Job again because he lost. He was ashamed. His justification had been wrecked. And these are justifications you will hear from people who hate God. You are not good. If you were good, you would stop all the pain and suffering in the world. These are the arguments you will hear from people who hate God, who rebel against him in the way that Satan does. So it is important that we understand his justification, because how did God counter it? Job's lived experience. When bad things happen to you and it seems like there's no reason, there's a reason. You just don't know what it is. Do you know in the military, not everything gets explained to you? Okay, go charge that machine gun nest. Why? I don't want to. Don't we have guys to bomb that? You don't know. You just go do it. This is what we are told to do. It's what we are called to do. Resist, fight, be strong. How many times does God say that? Be strong and of a good courage. Okay, because it's gonna get bad, so you need strength. And that happens to every servant of the Lord. Okay, so first of all, you got to test. Like, first of all, I'm building this tower. I got to figure out if I got enough to, if I'm gonna be okay. All right, you sit down, you figure out if you're gonna be able to do it. And you do it in the good times. I teach this in my self-defense class all the time. When it gets to the bad time, you're not learning nothing. You're executing what you've already learned. Your training comes out. Okay? Bad guy pulls a knife, you're not going to learn a new kick. You're not going to learn a disarming technique right then. You only get to execute what you already know. So you prepare for the bad times in the good times. I feel like there's stories in the Bible that talk about that. Something about 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows. You know, something. I feel like there's a principle there. Okay? Prepare for the bad times and the good times. What did David say? in the Psalms. He says, in my prosperity I said, I shall not be moved. You say it in the good times, because when the bad times hit, you're just like, okay, we're in the suck now. Then the bad times end, because they always do. Either you die and everything's better, or, that wave goes through. You got a little valley you can rest in. Float there for a while. And then the next one hits. And this is the Christian life, and it's all for a reason. It is all for a reason, even if we don't know what the reason is. So, my encouragement, take a look what happens in the book of Job, because more is said in what is not said, like when the devil stops talking, when he stops being there. The next time the devil acts, speaks, does something, it's in the temptation of Christ, right? And he tempts Christ with three things. First, he tries materialism. Turn these stones into bread. Command that these stones be made bread. You can do it. Satisfy yourself. Is that wrong? Is it wrong to eat bread? Is it wrong to turn stones into bread? If you have the ability, is that inherently wrong? No. It's wrong when the devil tells you to do it. Okay? If the devil tells you to do it, just probably take it on, probably that's bad. Okay? So do not that. Okay? I'll be hungry. Thank you. Okay? I'll go 41 days. Okay? Materialism was the first one. What was the second one? Takes him to the pillar of the temple. It says, hey, test God. Is God really going to save you? You step off of this temple. God said he'll send his angels to save you. Why don't you test him? What does Jesus say? Don't test God. Don't do it. But what was the last thing? And this one always kind of confused me, because he says, I'll give you the whole world if you fall down and worship me. It feels like a big ask. Okay, I feel like there was a leap there. But think about it. What has the devil been doing to the world for thousands of years at this point? What does the world look like at the time that Jesus is there? I talked about this last year, one of the Christmas messages. The world was the darkest it had ever been. The Roman Empire was a crushing, oppressive, destructive machine grinding the souls of its people under its boots. It was the worst time to live. It was the darkest period of human history. And the devil looked at Jesus. He took him up to above the world, highest mountain, to someone who can hear everything and hear all the suffering. And to someone who cares. This is the only way to hurt God, is through us, because we are the only things that make God weep. So God, Jesus, hears our pain, hears all of it. It's why he's there. And the devil says, I'll stop. I won't hurt him anymore. All you have to do is up here, just us two, justify every decision I made. Give me the worth I deserve. And Jesus said, you should probably stop talking. Jesus could have stopped all the suffering there. But it would have been infinitely worse. So when we suffer, there is a reason. God knows what he's doing. God knows the best way. And this is the best way. All right, I'm done. Does anybody have any questions? Anything to add?